In one of the last videos that I did, I wanted to automate pulling in information from the data tab over here. And once that pulls in, for instance, on the 19th, on the 20th, October 21st, etc., new daily stock price information from Google Sheets, I want for it to come up on the upper layer of this model, which is the minimum variance frontier model, and for it to know to pull in that additional data. So not only do I want to focus on it doing an auto filter down, I want for it to be able to capture new data. So raw information comes in under this data tab. Let's say I'm coming back and I'm updating for the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So I just did a filter, 20th, 21st. On portfolio, I want for this information to pull in. And as you can see, it's not all pulling in. The rest of it here isn't also coming in under the portfolio tab. So for me to be able to populate the rest of this data, I need to ensure that this range, this portfolio one range, is updated. And what I mean by that is if I click under the name manager and portfolio one up here, you can see the top is at B2 and the bottom, if I scroll all the way down, finishes here at 458. So this data, this is not pulling in. And the way I can make that come in, let me get rid of this. You see here all this is zeros. So the way I can get this data to come in is if I adjust the portfolio one to also take into account these additional 4 rows. Once I'm done, and I'll get into the macro momentarily, you will see the portfolio under 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st populate values here. Right now, it just doesn't even know that there are values that exist under this name range. And there's good reason I don't use the table. I know we can come in here and we could do a Control T, and this will capture our table automatically. It has to do with my formulas to begin with, where I need for it to think these are my access points. That's the way I've scripted it, where it understands what these things, what it's seeking, because if you know I'm using index and this, let's call it a table. It's not technically a table. If I do a table, and maybe you guys have experienced this, if you start deleting some rows from those tables and that table remains active, for instance, this is the bottom, the max, and you end up deleting this and the table is still active, it will continue to loop around and give you problems and slow down your script. So what I recommend is that you use name ranges and you reset those name ranges, which we will do here. And my script is this. I've done an option explicit. I've set the range X. This is the name range, portfolio underscore 1. I am capturing the end row and the end column. Notice that these are long. If you use an integer, I believe it goes up to approximately 30,000 on both. So you will get error problems with your script if you don't use long and you're trying to capture anything over 30, 40,000 columns and rows. So use long. And here's basically what we're asking. Go under data. I want you to count the cells in column 2, the rows in column 2, all the way to the end, and go back up and tell me what that row number is. So just to give you an idea of what I'm asking for, is I'm saying go under data, go under this column, count all of these, go all the way to the bottom. And as you can see, this is how many rows it's counting. And then I'm saying now go all the way up to the top. So it knows this is the end row in this range. It will know it's 461. And similarly, but what I do is always use the headers because I know I'm going to have information here under these headers. So I'm going to go all the way from 3 all the way across, or rather I give it 2, but I tell it count everything all the way to the end and then just come back. So then this is my last column, equals column. This is a quick way to see what the count is, which is 15. And my last row is 461. And let's run it here. I'll begin with option explicit. Zoom in. I'm going to click F8, F8. F8. Right now it counted 461 rows, 15 columns. Under the data tab, range, row, 2 rows down, 2 columns across, and then that's where I'm saying I want you to begin, and then I want you to stop at 461 and 15. Notice I'm using range and then cells, cells. I found this to be the easiest and cleanest way to script, and this as well comes into play when you're starting to build loops. It's a lot easier when you're working with numbers than if you're working with letters. So I would just stick with using range, cells, cells. That's my recommendation. And I hope that saves you some time. I wish I knew this when I first started. F8, and I just want to show you here, if you're using the macro recorder, it will pop up with our R1 and our C1 typical references. I don't like using those. Again, they're not very helpful when you're looping. That's my opinion. Maybe somebody can prove me wrong. I know this refers to range here, actually clears the data. So with a little play, I was able to determine refers to, and then the range, this line here, is what sets the name range. Now we're going to go back to our data tab, close out of everything. We're going to click portfolio, and you see it stopped at B2 and O461. Or another way we could do it is click portfolio here. And you can see if we scroll at the bottom, we've captured these new rows. We go under portfolio. The rows we're capturing are 18, 19, 20 portfolio. Now you can see 18, 19, 20 are pulling in the information. Let's delete these guys. And let's add 18, 19, 20. We're expecting that the information pull in. You can see now it's pulling in here. So let's do 18, 19, 20. And you can see now the information is pulling in. For whatever reason, earlier I hadn't captured the correct date, possibly. Something was off. Let's get rid of maybe the hour. Oh, still pulling in, so I'm not sure what happened earlier. Let me come to portfolio here. For whatever reason, and this is where troubleshooting, just troubleshoot to see what's happening. I mean, you would expect this to work. I'm expecting it to work. 1018. I don't see any difference whatsoever. And then I go through these steps here, 18, 19, 20, and you can see now it's pulling in the data, but earlier it wasn't pulling in the data. And I can't tell you why. As you can see, nothing has changed. Yeah, so it goes to show sometimes you gotta troubleshoot. It's pretty finicky, and the point is when we're building our models, we build them in such a way where these kind of glitches don't occur and confuse the end user, especially when the end user is pushed for time. So stress testing is important, absolutely imperative. And I will show you how to validate these values, because sometimes we start relying so much on these formulas, they become so complex. Just one little glitch, one little mistake can zero out data, which can absolutely impact your end result. And I guarantee you that sort of thing will not happen with any of my models or any automation that I'm building out for you. Slowly but surely, I'm going to automate this entire model. This was my next step from video 3. Subsequently, what I want to do is, if I know I have data coming in, I want for this to automate by itself. You've seen how we're going to reset the name range, and then we'll get to our portfolio. Be able to constantly validate our information here with some side calculations where we're not so heavily just relying on data like this, on formulas like this that are not understood. At the end of it, all of this will be understood, and the end user will feel very comfortable with the underlying and what tab 2, what tab 3, 4, 5 is doing to get us to the end, which is our minimum variance frontier and our efficient portfolio. I promise you stick with me, and I'll show you how to build these out, how to understand them, and more importantly, how to teach them so that you can pass on this knowledge and do other things with your time. If you're interested in me building out automation for you or getting involved in some of your processing, please reach out to me at jazzfin.com, Jazzfin Company, and I'm happy to help. I'm still building on this series. Please stick with me. This will all materialize itself into a final application. That's the end goal. And hopefully you can see that I'm right with some of these stock picks. I'm not hiding them from anybody. This is what I'm invested in, and there's good reason I'm invested in these companies. And I'm not saying invest in them. I'm saying take a look at them. I'm not giving any investment advice. I am just showing you what I'm looking at. Each one of us is supposed to be practicing independence and objectivity in judgment. We're no dum-dums. We can read, we can put the data into information and determine for ourselves. What I do is just build you something easy that will help you direct your attention in the right areas. Again, if you're interested in me automating something for you, just reach out to me, jazzfin.com, Jazzfin Company, and please feel free to leave me any comments. Okay, catch you on the next one.